Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is none other than Lindsay Parkinson. Lots of you won't know who that is. He's actually the head of the CPS in England and Wales. That's the Prosecution Service. He's the head honcho. He has been for almost a year, just over a year. I want to look at his career before then and point out some unusual things. Points of view for a barrister who is now the head of the CPS. And I'll come on to them. So I'm going to give you a brief outline of his legal history and then the things that concern me. So in 1980, Parkinson was called to the bar at Lincoln's Inn. He undertook his pupillage at 3 Temple Gardens between 1882, thereby qualifying as a barrister. But he didn't become a barrister. He moved in to be the sub-editor of Butterworth Legal Publishers from 82 till 84. And then he joined the Crown Prosecution Service for the first time. As a legal assistant, worked his way up to senior Crown Prosecutor. He was head of the CPS's International Cooperation Unit 91 and 92. Then he moved on to the civil service proper and was assistant solicitor at the Department of Trade and Industry from 92 to 96. Then the head of Company Stroke Chancery Litigation Group at the Treasurer's Solicitors Department from 96 to 99. From 99 to 2003, he served as a Deputy Legal Secretary to law officers, i.e. he was a Deputy Head at the Attorney General's Office. In 2003, he left civil service. He went into a private practice, law firm Kingsley Napley. Now I'm going to come on to them in a minute because this is where the strange things occurred. He was admitted as a solicitor in 2005, became partner for the firm the same year, was head of their criminal litigation practice from 06 to 18, and then became the firm's senior partner in 2018, before retiring sometime in 2023 after 20 years with the firm. Now bear in mind he's now retired, but in September 2023 it was announced that he would be the next Director of Public Prosecutions and head of the Crown Prosecution Service. He took up the post on the 1st of November 2023, succeeding Sir Max Hill, and that's where he is today. All well and good. Sounds like quite a qualified man for the job. But we don't know too much about his personality or indeed his beliefs and ideologies. Well, we do now. Because, as I mentioned, I would take you back to his time at Kingsley Napley. I'll now draw your attention to Kingsley Napley's website, where on the 18th of June 2020, no other than Lindsay Parkinson wrote a lovely blog entitled, "Want to be a diversity ally? Here's how." And he wrote this on the 18th of June 2020. If you can take your mind back to then, we're 2-3 months into lockdown. It's the middle of that summer of chaos. We had the George Floyd event, which then led to a summer of protests and riots and looting and law breaking by Black Lives Matter, statues destroyed, all that carry on. That was all at round about the same time. And this blog brings up two things that I am really concerned about, because this guy is now head of the CPS in England and Wales, because it tells you about his ideologies. I wanted to write this blog because from personal experience I know how important it is to be an ally, and in particular how valued it is by our black and diverse colleagues when people who are not of the same ethnicity / race make a stand alongside them against prejudice. I am now proud to count myself as an ally, but my experience of being an ally of any sort began almost 3 years ago when I became an LGBTQ+ ally as a result of witnessing the prejudice experienced by a relative. Now this is very odd. I would count, I would say, any great standard bearer for the LGB community, but I would certainly say if I had to describe myself, I would say I was more of an ally of them than not. And that is probably a normal stance. In this day and age, 2024, particularly for people in my age who had seen the way our lesbian and gay community had been treated through the 80s and 90s. And I'm quite like, I know a lot of people that are lesbian and gay, and I understand they had issues in the past, but when you talk to them these days, you ask them, what does the lesbian and gay community need right now? They're like, quite happy with our sort, got everything we needed, it's all cool in the gang. But being an ally of LGB is one thing, but to be an ally of the TQ plus is a totally other thing. Because there's even people in the LGB community, and a large number of them, who want nothing to do with the TQ plus part of that bunch of letters. Because that part is where you have queer ideology and trans ideology. And most of the lesbian and gays, if not all that I know, particularly the older ones, want nothing to do with that. They understand that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. People who are allies to the trans and the queer ideology do not. They believe that a man can be a woman can be a man, we can be 100 things in between. And the queer ideology, I'm not going to make a 10-minute moan about this. Google it yourself if you don't know. It's bloody scary. And Lindsay Parkinson, who is now the head of the CPS in England and Wales, is a self-proclaimed ally of those theories. And that's not my word for it, that's his. I began almost 3 years ago, so that takes us back to 2017. So for 7 years, this man has been an ally, not only the LGBT community, which is kind of normal, but also the TQ plus community. That scares me somewhat. However, I realised then that in some small way my support made a difference. It's been very evident over the last 3 weeks how supported the black community have felt because people from every ethnicity and background, prompted by the murder of George Floyd. Let's just stop a minute. 20th of June 2020, we were still debating whether that man was A, murdered, or B, a consequence of accident because of the amount of drugs in his body. That debate was still taking place. This lawyer at the time, head litigator, and now the head of the CPS, had decided, before a court of law did, that man was murdered. I think that's a normal position for someone who has zero legal understanding. This man would have been well aware that that decision had not been legally made yet on the 20th of June 2020. But he just went on record as stating that man was murdered. I find that odd. Having expressed outrage by the prejudice continues to persist in our own society as well as in the USA. Now, there's loads of the blog that are just waffle, and more waffle. There's a couple of things that actually make sense. There's a particular speak up. There are many times comments are made about people from ethnic minorities. About people from ethnic minorities, whether in social or professional setting, which are inappropriate and at worst offensive. And it tells you should speak up. That's quite a normal thing. We don't need you to write a blog telling us to do that. That's what normal people would do. If I was in any social or work situation and someone was to make a derogatory remark to anybody for any reason, I would kind of have to say something about it. That's not some sort of virtue signalling superstar there, Stephen. That's normal. But the second bit that caused me concern was a part where he says we have to educate ourselves. And this bit's scary. This tells you where his ideology is. Because this isn't an idiot. This is a man who would know what he's saying and know who he was describing. And when you consider at this point he was a head partner in a law firm and he's putting this on their website, bet your bottom dollar he knows exactly what he's saying and about whom. And he's no guessing. He's done some research. He's quite happy to put his name behind this group and furthermore his company's name behind this group. So when he's telling us to educate ourselves, he says the Black Lives Matter movement is important. It shines a light on the disparity of treatment of black people compared to other ethnicities. There are a lot of tools available to assist to understand this movement and be fully informed. Yeah, their website. There's one tool that will help you understand this movement. And on Black Lives Matter's website, because I've done this in 2020, and I'm not a lawyer or a barrister or now the head of the CPS. I'm just a guy with an inquisitive mind. And in 2020, I was able to tell you that BLM were a Marxist organisation. I was also able to tell you that on their websites in 2020, they were telling us that they wanted to defund the police and have segregated areas in America purely for black people. I found that out in 2020, and I'm not a lawyer. And I'm not writing blogs on my legal firm where I'm a partner's website that are still there to this day. But you are. So that tells me that the guy that's the head of the CPS in England and Wales right now sees himself as an ally to people who think men can be women and women can be men. Queer theology, go and have a look at that. That's scary. It's a topic in itself. Segregation of blacks in America and defunding the police and Marxism, because they're a self-proclaimed Marxist organisation. And it's all on their website. And it was in 2020 when I looked, when this group went boom, and I thought, who are these people? And I found out pretty damn quick, using the tools that you've told us about, which include their own website. So now we need to consider, why is this important? Because this man is a top man in prosecuting people in England and Wales. That's why it's important. A man that thinks a woman can be a man and a man can be a woman. We should have segregation of black people. We should be Marxist. We should defund the police. Scary, isn't it? And now let's consider a few court cases and investigations that he's ultimately been responsible for. He has to take ultimate responsibility for the amount of people jailed, 1,200 people, during the summer, some of whom, yes, were for rioting, kind of get that, but most of them were for things like hurty words. This is a guy who's got to take responsibility for persuading a Tory councillor's wife to plead guilty for saying hurty words on social media, but also did not use the same leverage with a Labour councillor who wanted to slit the throat of people he termed far right, and done so with a megaphone in public, and the video footage of it is all over the internet. This is the guy that's ultimately responsible for that. This is a guy that's ultimately responsible for not prosecuting so far 2 men who attacked police officers in Manchester Airport and hospitalised them. And again, the footage is all there. And he's ultimately responsible for prosecuting these people. And the most damning one is he is a guy who would have prosecuted the additional charges to the man alleged to have murdered children, and I'm watching my words as you can tell, for allegedly murdering children on their way to nursery school in Southport, and adding on the additional charges, which are, we have to believe, are not connected to the murder, but just additional things like having poison in his possession and having Al-Qaeda training manuals. So he's getting charged with terror things, but they've got nothing to do with the murders. This is what the prosecution services are telling us. And the prosecution services, who were ultimately responsible for the timing of these additional charges, they didn't happen until a couple of days after one of the largest pro-UK rallies in the capital, London, and days after Tommy Robinson get charged, not only for contempt of court, which he put his hand up to, but his additional charges, which are terror-related. These charges are brought on by the CPS, and this man is head of them. Frightening the life out of you. That is modern day United Kingdom. And anybody that watches my channel and supports me and knows me and his friends and lives in England and Wales, be careful. Because this man's ideology is nowhere near mine, nor, I would suggest, the vast majority of the members of the public in the United Kingdom. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe button and notifications. Put your comments below, I always like them. But most importantly of all, Not if you are someone who believes a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man, and we should have segregation in America and defund the police where we put black people in a wee separate area from everyone else. No you, but...
Everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio bye now.